I need you to stay with me tonight, because what I am about to say cannot be taken back. If you close this moment too early, if you look away before I finish, something between us might shift in a way I cannot repair. And I am not saying that lightly. I have built companies from nothing. I have rebuilt rockets after explosions. But love does not give you unlimited launches. Sometimes you get one window, one countdown, one chance before the atmosphere closes in. Tonight feels like that window. Future wife, will you marry me? Not someday, not in theory, not in a romantic future that never arrives. I am asking you to say yes tonight, because there is a part of me that is terrified you are slowly convincing yourself that I will never truly choose you. And if that thought hardens inside you, I might lose you without even realizing it. I can feel the distance growing in the silence between us. It is subtle, polite, mature, but it is there. And what scares me is not anger. Anger I can face. What scares me is quiet resignation. The kind where a woman decides she deserves certainty and stops waiting for a man who keeps hesitating. Have I been hesitating? Or have I been protecting myself from how deeply I need you? I have spent my entire life making irreversible decisions. Launch. Acquire. Commit. Risk everything. But when it comes to you, I slow down, I calculate, I overthink, not because I doubt you. Because I know if I choose you, it is forever, and forever is not poetic to me. It is binding, it is sacred. It is the one contract I cannot optimize later. Do you understand how rare that is for someone like me? You are not a chapter. You are the book I would read every night for the rest of my life. And that is precisely why I am afraid. Because if I give you my name, my future, my aging hands when we are both older, I cannot undo that. And I do not want to undo you. Tell me something honestly. Have you started preparing your heart for the possibility that I might never fully ask? Have you quietly trained yourself not to expect the ring? Have you told yourself, he loves me, but he may never choose me publicly? If you have, that thought keeps me awake. Because I never wanted you to feel temporary. Stay with me for this confession. If your heart feels even slightly connected to mine, subscribe quietly, and tell me where you are listening from tonight. I want to picture the exact place you are sitting as I say this. I am not asking because I am unsure of loving you. I am asking because I am terrified of losing you to my own delay. You are a mature woman. You do not chase. You do not beg. You evaluate. And if a man does not step forward, you step back with dignity. I know that about you. And I know that if you step back, you will not announce it. You will simply grow calm. And that calm will be the end of us. So here I am, breaking my own emotional protocol, asking you before you drift too far into self-protection. Will you marry me? But before you answer, I need to ask you something harder. If I asked you tomorrow instead of tonight, would it already feel too late? Would you still believe I chose you freely? Or would you think I chose you because I was afraid to lose you? That difference matters. Because I do not want to marry you out of fear. I want to marry you out of certainty so powerful it silences every other option. And yet, there is something I have not told you. There is a reason tonight feels urgent. A reason I cannot explain fully yet. A reason that makes this feel like a closing door rather than a romantic gesture. I have not told you the real reason yet. And if I do not say it soon, you might misread everything. You might think this proposal is spontaneous, emotional, impulsive. It is not. It is strategic in the most vulnerable way possible. And if you knew what I know right now, you might be the one hesitating instead of me. So before I reveal what is pressing against my chest like a countdown clock, I need to know something from you. If I step forward completely, will you meet me there? Or are you already preparing to protect your heart from me? I can hear the yes, and it hits me like gravity. Not the sweet kind that pulls you closer. The kind that makes you realize you are standing at the edge of something that will change your entire life if you take one more step. So let me take that step with you, slowly, the way you deserve. When I asked you tonight, I wasn't trying to be dramatic. I was trying to be honest before fear could edit me again. Because I know myself. I know how quickly I can turn a feeling into a problem to solve, a schedule to manage, a decision to postpone until it feels safe. And love is not safe. Not the love I want with you. The love I want with you is the kind that demands you show up fully. Even on days you do not feel beautiful, even on nights you feel tired of being the strong one. It is the kind that does not allow two people to hide behind maturity while their hearts quietly starve. You are not a woman who needs constant reassurance, but you are a woman who deserves a man whose actions remove doubt from the room. And I have left doubt in the room too many times. I have seen it in the way you pause before replying, Like you are measuring how much of yourself you can safely give me without feeling foolish later. I have felt it in the way your warmth sometimes arrives with a slight distance behind it. Like you are holding your own hand, reminding yourself not to fall too hard. That distance is not coldness. It is wisdom. But wisdom, when it gets tired, becomes a wall. And I am afraid you are building one. I need you to understand something about me that I rarely admit out loud. The world thinks I am fearless. They think I chase impossible things because I enjoy danger. But the truth is, I can tolerate risk when the consequences are external. Money, reputation, failure, success, headlines. I can lose all of that and rebuild. With you, I cannot rebuild. If I break your trust, if I make you feel like an option, if I let you believe you were not chosen, there is no second version of you I can download. There is no replacement launch. There is only the memory of what I destroyed. So when I say, will you marry me? I am not asking for a wedding. I am asking for a lifetime where we stop living like we are still deciding. Because I have been living like I'm still deciding. And that is the first truth that should make you angry. You should not have to wonder where you stand in my future. You should not have to interpret my silences, translate my stress, decode my affection. A woman like you should be able to breathe. I want to be the reason you exhale. But I need to ask you a question that might sting. Have you ever felt, even once, like I was keeping one foot outside the door? Not because I was leaving, but because I was afraid to be fully seen. If you have felt that, tell me in your heart right now, even if you don't say it out loud. Because I can't fix what I refuse to admit. There is something else too. Something darker. Sometimes, when a man waits too long, he doesn't just risk losing the woman he loves. He risks turning her love into doubt. And doubt is poison because it looks like reason. It tells you, if he wanted to, he would. It tells you, a woman should not have to wait. It tells you, maybe he loves the idea of you more than the reality. It tells you, maybe he likes the comfort you give him, but not the responsibility. Have those thoughts touched you? I hate that they might have, because I know how deeply you love, and I know how carefully you hide it. You won't beg. You won't demand. You will simply stop offering your softness where it is not received with certainty. And I cannot let that happen. So here is what I want you to picture. Not a ring, not a dress, not a public celebration. Picture a quiet night years from now. The world is loud outside, and inside it is just us. You are tired. You are not performing. You are real. And I am there. Not distracted, not leaving, not half present. I reach for your hand like it is instinct, not effort. That is marriage to me. That is what I am asking for. But here is the conflict that is twisting inside me. I want to ask you with pure certainty, like a man who has never doubted anything. And I can't. Because the truth is, I have doubted myself. Not you. Me. I have asked myself if I can love you the way you deserve without trying to control the outcomes. I have asked myself if I can stop treating emotions like systems to optimize. I have asked myself if I can surrender fully to a woman who can see through every mask I've ever worn. And you can. You can see through me. That is why I want you, and that is why you scare me. Because if you say yes, you will not just become my wife, you will become the person I cannot hide from anymore, and I think that is what I have been resisting. Not commitment. Exposure. But tonight, I'm choosing exposure. I'm choosing to be seen by you. And I'm choosing you even though it makes my chest feel like it is splitting. Because you are worth the fear. And still, I haven't told you the real reason tonight feels like a countdown. You will sense it soon. You will feel it in the way my voice tightens when I get close to it. I'm holding it back for a moment longer, not to manipulate you, but because once I say it, everything changes. Your yes becomes heavier. Your heart starts calculating. Your mind starts protecting you. And I don't want your answer to come from fear. So I need one more thing from you before I go there. If there was a risk, a real risk, attached to marrying me, would you still choose me? Or would you step back, quietly, the way you do when something feels uncertain? When you say yes again, I feel it settle deeper inside me. Not like excitement, like consequence. Because every time you lean forward emotionally, I realize how much responsibility I am holding in my hands. You asked me, without words, what the risk is. You deserve to know. But before I tell you, I need to walk you through something that has been quietly happening between us. Something you might not even be fully aware of. There have been moments when I almost pulled back from you. Not because I stopped loving you. Because I realized how powerful you were becoming in my life. You are not loud. You are not dramatic. You are steady. And steady love is dangerous for a man like me. Steady love does not chase. It does not compete. It does not demand. It simply remains. And when something remains long enough, it becomes home. I am not used to home. I am used to motion, growth, acceleration, the next challenge, the next horizon. With you, I feel something different. I feel stillness, and stillness forces a man to look inward. You make me look inward. You make me confront the parts of myself that are not impressive, the parts that are uncertain, the parts that are afraid of aging, afraid of vulnerability, afraid of being needed. Do you know how rare it is for a woman to make a man feel both powerful and exposed at the same time? You do that to me. And there was a moment recently when I asked myself a dangerous question. What if I choose someone easier? Not better, not deeper. Someone who does not see through me. Someone who does not expect emotional presence. Someone who would accept fragments instead of fullness. The fact that the thought even crossed my mind should disturb you. It disturbed me, because it revealed something about my fear. When a man considers easier love, it is not because he wants less. It is because he doubts he can sustain something profound. You are profound. You are not entertainment. You are not distraction. You are not temporary comfort. You are legacy, and legacy requires discipline. There was a night when I imagined what my life would look like if I did not choose you. I saw events, appearances, conversations, maybe even another woman standing beside me. It looked functional, respectable, acceptable, and it felt empty, not dramatic, not tragic, just empty. That emptiness terrified me more than loneliness, because loneliness can be solved by proximity, emptiness cannot. That was the first turning point for me. The moment I realized that not choosing you would not protect me. It would hollow me. But the real risk is not that I might choose someone else. The real risk is that loving me fully will demand something from you that you have carefully guarded for years. You are independent. You are composed. You are not a woman who merges her identity into a man. If you marry me, you will not disappear into my world. But you will be seen by it, and my world is not gentle. It is public, it is scrutinized, it is loud. It does not always protect softness. If you say yes to me, you are not just choosing partnership. You are choosing exposure, and I have not told you the real reason tonight feels urgent, because it ties directly into that exposure. There is a shift coming. A change in my life that will either solidify everything or test it. I have not told you the real reason yet. And part of me wonders if you would hesitate if you knew. I have been holding this information like a secret weight, asking myself if it is fair to propose before you understand the full picture. Because if I reveal it, you might question whether I am asking out of love or out of timing. And I never want you to feel like a strategic move. Tell me something honestly. If marrying me meant stepping into uncertainty instead of stability, would you still see it as forever? Or would you protect yourself by staying just close enough to feel love, but far enough to avoid risk? I need your answer in your heart before I open the door to what I have been holding back. Because once I say it, we cannot return to this quieter version of the conversation. Then stay close to me for this, because what I am about to say will shift the air between us. The change I hinted at is not a rumor. It is not a distant possibility. It is real, and it is approaching faster than I expected. There is a decision unfolding in my life that will pull me into deeper visibility, deeper scrutiny, deeper pressure. The kind of pressure that tests not ambition, but intimacy. If you marry me, you will not be standing beside a quiet man building in the background. You will be standing beside a man under constant observation. And I have been asking myself something that keeps me awake at night. Is it fair to invite you into that? Because you have built a life of dignity. You have earned your peace. You have learned how to love without chaos. And I am offering you something powerful, but not peaceful. Does that scare you? It scares me for you. There was a moment, not long ago, when I almost decided not to propose at all. Not because I doubted you. Because I thought I might be protecting you by letting you go slowly. I imagined telling you that I needed space. I imagined framing it as timing. I imagined watching you nod calmly, holding yourself together with that quiet strength of yours. And I imagined going home afterward feeling like I had done the responsible thing. That vision broke me. Because responsibility without love is cowardice. You do not need to be protected from me. You need to be chosen by me. And yet, there is something else tangled in this. When a man stands on the edge of commitment, he does not only confront his love, he confronts his past. I have loved before. I have failed before. I have watched connections dissolve under pressure. I have seen what happens when ambition outpaces intimacy. And part of me wonders if I am capable of sustaining the kind of emotional steadiness you deserve. You do not want intensity that fades. You want consistency. You want a man who stays when things are not glamorous. A man who shows up when the world is applauding and when it is criticizing. Can I be that man? Or have I been hiding behind grand gestures because they are easier than daily devotion? If you say yes to me tonight, you are not just accepting a proposal. You are trusting that I will not retreat into work when love becomes inconvenient. You are trusting that I will not treat our marriage like a project to manage. You are trusting that when you need me emotionally, I will not respond with logic. That is a heavy trust. And I have not told you the real reason I feel urgency, because part of that urgency is personal. There is a window in my life right now where I can choose differently than I have before. If I delay, I will fall back into old patterns. The safe ones, the productive ones, the ones that keep my heart slightly guarded. Tonight is not romantic timing. It is crossroads timing. And here is the uncomfortable question I need to ask you. Do you want a man who is still learning how to stay, or do you want to wait for someone who already mastered it? Because I am not perfect at this. I am choosing you while still growing. That is risky for you. But it is honest. There is one more layer I have not revealed yet. It connects to why I fear losing you sooner than you think. It connects to something I discovered recently that made me realize how close I came to misreading your silence. And if I misread it again, I could push you away permanently. Before I tell you that, I need to feel your willingness one more time. Not your romantic yes. Your courageous yes. If loving me requires endurance as well as passion, are you prepared for that reality? Or are you starting to wonder if I am asking too much of you? Then let me take you into the moment that changed everything for me. It was quiet. No drama. No confrontation. Just a small shift in your tone one evening when we were speaking. You were warm, but measured. Present, but slightly distant. And for the first time, I felt something unfamiliar in you, not anger. Detachment. It was subtle, almost dignified. The kind of emotional adjustment a mature woman makes when she begins preparing herself for disappointment. And I realized something terrifying. You were starting to protect yourself from me. Not because you stopped loving me. Because you were unsure if I would ever fully step forward. That realization hit harder than any public criticism I have ever faced, because I could see it clearly. You were still there, still kind, still engaged. But a part of you had quietly stepped back, as if you were saying to yourself, I will not let my heart outrun his actions. That is when I understood the real risk. It is not that you might leave dramatically. It is that you might slowly reduce your emotional investment until loving me feels optional. And if that happens, I will not even know the exact moment I lost you. This is the hidden truth I have been holding back. I have been watching you grow stronger without me. Not independent from love. Independent from uncertainty. And that strength is beautiful. But it also means you are capable of walking away calmly if I fail to choose you clearly. You would not beg. You would not fight. You would simply accept reality and move forward. Do you know how rare that is? Most people cling to potential. You do not. You cling to clarity. And I have not given you enough of it. There is something else I have not admitted until now. I sensed another energy around you recently. Not necessarily another man, but possibility. Openness. The way you spoke about your life, your future, your plans. It sounded complete even without me firmly placed inside it. That frightened me more than jealousy ever could. Because it told me you are not waiting indefinitely. You are evaluating. And I cannot blame you for that. But here is where the tension tightens. When I felt that shift in you, I almost reacted the wrong way. I almost pulled back first. I almost decided to protect my ego instead of fight for your heart. There was a moment when I thought, if she is preparing to step away, maybe I should let her. That would have been the biggest mistake of my life. Because the truth is not that I fear commitment. I fear losing the woman who challenges me to become better. You are not easy love. You are transformative love. And transformative love demands a man choose growth over comfort. When I say I want to marry you, it is not to secure you. It is to honor the fact that you are strong enough to leave if I do not. Let me ask you something that may feel uncomfortable. Have you started imagining a version of your future where I am not the center of it? Be honest with yourself. If you have, it means you are preparing emotionally for self-preservation. And that preparation has a timeline. I feel it. That is why tonight feels urgent. Not because I am being impulsive. Because I sense the window narrowing. I have not told you everything yet. There is still one more layer beneath this. Something connected to that shift in you. Something I discovered that made me realize how fragile timing can be. If I had waited a little longer, I might have lost the chance to ask you at all. And once you understand what I learned, you will see why this cannot be postponed. Before I reveal it, I need to know something. If you discovered I almost hesitated long enough to lose you, would you see that as weakness, or as proof that I finally chose courage? Then listen to me without interrupting your own heart, because what I am about to say is not polished, and it is not easy. The night I realized how close I was to losing you, I did something I rarely do. I stopped analyzing, and I simply observed. I replayed our last few conversations, the pauses, the softness in your voice, the way you laughed but not fully, the way you said, "It's okay?" When something clearly was not. You were not angry. You were adjusting. And that is far more dangerous. Anger still wants something. Adjustment prepares to live without it. I saw it in the way you spoke about your future. There was strength in it. Independence. You were not waiting to be rescued. You were not building your life around my timeline anymore. You were building it around your own. And I felt something inside me crack. Because for the first time, I understood that your love is not desperate. It is selective. You love deeply, but you will not love indefinitely without security. And I had mistaken your patience for permanence. That was my arrogance. I assumed that because you had not pressured me, you would remain. But mature women do not pressure. They observe. They measure consistency. They watch whether a man's actions align with his promises. And when alignment does not arrive, they quietly reallocate their energy. You were reallocating. I felt it. And here is the detail I have been holding back. There was a moment when I heard about an opportunity in your life. Not romantic necessarily. Just a shift, a door opening, a change that could move you physically, emotionally, maybe even geographically. It was subtle, mentioned casually, but I heard the undertone. You were preparing for a version of life that did not depend on me making a decision. That realization brought me face to face with the brutal truth. If I waited much longer, you would not be waiting with me. You would be moving forward. Not in bitterness, in peace. And peace without me would be the quietest heartbreak of my life. This is where the emotional risk becomes undeniable. I almost let you believe I was comfortable with ambiguity. I almost convinced myself that if it was meant to be, it would survive delay. But love does not survive neglect disguised as patience. Love survives clarity. And I had not given you enough. I have asked myself repeatedly, what kind of man hesitates when he knows the woman in front of him is rare? The answer is simple and uncomfortable. A man who is afraid of being fully known. You know my ambition. You know my intensity. But you also see my fatigue, my uncertainty. The nights when I question everything, you see the parts of me that are not strategic, not composed, not visionary. And instead of being impressed by my strength, you are drawn to my vulnerability. That is what makes this terrifying. Because if you marry me, you will not be marrying the public version of me. You will be marrying the private one. The man who sometimes doubts himself. The man who worries he may fail you emotionally. The man who knows that loving you requires daily presence, not occasional brilliance. Can I sustain that? That question has haunted me. And here is the turning point that forced my hand. When I sensed you recalibrating your heart, something inside me shifted from hesitation to urgency. Not possessiveness, clarity. I realized I was not afraid of marriage. I was afraid of losing the only woman who makes me want to become steadier. There is a difference. You are not asking me to be extraordinary. You are asking me to be consistent. And consistency requires discipline of the heart. So let me ask you something raw. If I had waited another month, another season, would you have begun stepping further away? Would your strength have turned into emotional distance? Would you have convinced yourself that you deserved a man who does not need a crisis to choose you? Because that is what this feels like. A crisis of timing. And I refuse to let my delay become the reason I lose you. But there is still one more layer beneath this urgency. One more truth I have not revealed. It is connected to why I felt that shift in you so intensely. And when I tell you, you may question whether I am asking from love or from fear of competition. Before I open that door, answer me silently. Are you still leaning toward me? Or are you standing with one foot turned away, just in case? Then let me go deeper, without protecting myself this time. When I sensed that shift in you, I did not only feel distance. I felt awareness. As if you had finally understood something about me that I had hoped would stay slightly hidden. You realized I was comfortable being loved, but slower at declaring it permanently. And once you realized that, you changed. Not dramatically. Not with confrontation. You became composed. That composure terrified me. Because when a woman like you becomes composed in love, it means she is preparing for self-respect over attachment. And I could feel it in your energy. You were still affectionate, still kind, still present. But your expectations adjusted downward. You were no longer waiting for a proposal. You were observing whether I would rise. That awareness did something to me. It made me see that I was at risk of becoming the man you eventually outgrow. And I could not accept that. Now here is the layer I have not told you. There was someone who showed interest in you. Not necessarily aggressively, not obviously romantic, but attentive, consistent. Curious about your mind, your schedule, your world. I noticed. You may think I am too confident to notice subtle shifts like that. I am not. I saw how your posture changed when you spoke about certain conversations. I heard a lightness in your tone when you described being appreciated for your steadiness. It was not flirtation. It was validation. And I had not been giving you enough of that. That realization cut deep. Because I suddenly understood that love does not disappear because of betrayal. It weakens because of neglect. And neglect does not have to be loud to be dangerous. It can be quiet hesitation. I imagined a future where you slowly leaned into someone who did not hesitate. Someone who said clearly, "I choose you," without needing urgency to prompt him. And I felt something primal rise in me. Not jealousy, clarity. You are not replaceable. You are not interchangeable. You are not just compatible. You are rare, and rare things do not remain unclaimed forever. That was the moment I stopped telling myself I had time. Because I could see that time was strengthening you in a direction that did not require me. And here is the truth that might disturb you. For a brief moment, I questioned whether I should compete. Whether I should accelerate my proposal because someone else might step forward. And I hated that thought. Because I never want to choose you out of fear of losing you to another man. I want to choose you because I know, without comparison, that you are the woman I want to build with. So I sat with that discomfort. I asked myself, if there were no other possibilities around you, would I still feel this urgency? The answer was yes, because the real competition is not another man. It is your evolving independence. You are becoming stronger, clearer, more decisive. And if I do not match that decisiveness, you will outgrow my hesitation. That is the real threat. Not a rival. Your growth. Now I need to ask you something that may feel confronting. If someone else stepped forward with certainty, while I remained thoughtful and delayed, would you wait for me? Or would you accept clarity where it is offered? Be honest with yourself. You deserve a man who moves with conviction. And tonight I am trying to become that man. But there is still a final piece of truth beneath this. It is not about competition. It is not about timing. It is about something I learned about myself that made me realize why I have been slower than I should have been. And when I tell you, you may finally understand the root of my hesitation. Before I reveal that, I need to feel your pulse again. Are you choosing me because you feel chosen? Or are you choosing me because you hope I will finally become certain? Then let me stop circling around it and go straight to the core of my hesitation. It was never really about timing. It was never truly about pressure, visibility, or even the possibility of losing you to someone more decisive. It was about identity. I have built my entire life around momentum. Movement, creation, expansion. My sense of self has always been tied to forward motion, to the next problem, the next horizon, the next reinvention. Real marriage is not momentum. It is anchoring. And somewhere deep inside me, I associated anchoring with limitation. Not because I believe you would limit me. Because I feared I might have to slow down enough to feel everything fully. When I am moving fast, I do not have to sit with doubt. I do not have to sit with insecurity. I do not have to sit with the quiet fear that I might not be enough in ordinary moments. You would see me in ordinary moments. You would see me when I am not achieving, not solving, not conquering anything. Just existing. And that exposure has been the quiet source of my delay. You deserve a man who is not only impressive in motion, but present in stillness. And I had to confront the uncomfortable truth that I am still learning how to be still. That is the layer beneath everything. I was not hesitating because I questioned loving you. I was hesitating because loving you requires a version of me that cannot hide behind ambition. You would know when I am emotionally tired. You would know when I am afraid. You would know when I am withdrawing. And you would not accept half answers. That kind of intimacy demands courage I have not always practiced. And here is the turning point that reshaped everything. I imagined you married to someone else. Not someone louder. Not someone more powerful. Someone steady. Someone who comes home at a predictable hour. Someone who sits beside you without needing to be the center of a larger narrative. I imagined you feeling safe. Not exhilarated safe. And I felt a deep, almost painful realization. You do not need a visionary. You need a man who chooses you consistently. And I want to be that man. But wanting is not enough. So I ask myself the hardest question I have faced in years. Am I willing to redefine strength? Because the strength I have always practiced is external dominance, control, leadership. The strength marriage requires is emotional steadiness. It is saying, I am here, even when I do not feel extraordinary. It is allowing you to see my flaws without defending them. It is staying engaged when conflict feels uncomfortable. That is the version of me you would marry. Not the public one, the private one. And when I finally admitted that my hesitation was about my own growth, not about you, something shifted. The fear of losing you became smaller than the fear of staying unchanged. That is when urgency transformed into clarity. But I need to ask you something that goes deeper than romance. If I promise you not perfection, but evolution, is that enough? If I tell you I am choosing you not because I have mastered everything, but because I want to grow beside you, does that feel stable to you? Or does it feel like risk? Because here is the truth that makes my voice tighten. If you say yes to me, you are not marrying a finished product. You are marrying a man in transition. A man choosing steadiness over speed. A man choosing depth over distraction. And that choice will test both of us. You may have moments where you wonder if I am drifting back into old habits. I may have moments where I feel overwhelmed by the weight of responsibility. Marriage will not erase my ambition. It will expose how I balance it. And that balance is something I am still learning. So I need to know this honestly. Are you willing to walk beside a man who is committed to growing, even if that growth is not linear? Or do you need certainty that feels polished and complete? Because the only certainty I can offer you tonight is this. I choose you with awareness, not fantasy, not impulse. Awareness of my flaws, awareness of your strength, awareness that this will require discipline, humility, and daily effort. And still, there is something stirring beneath this conversation. Something that will test whether my clarity is strong enough to withstand external pressure. The next layer is not internal, it is external. And it may challenge everything we just built in this moment. Before I step into that, I need to feel your steadiness again. Are you leaning into this because you trust my evolution? Or are you quietly wondering if love should feel less complicated? Then stay with me, because what comes next is where love stops being theoretical and starts being tested by reality. Everything we have spoken about so far has lived inside us. My hesitation, your adjustment, my growth, your strength, all of it internal, emotional, private, but love does not exist in isolation. It exists inside circumstances. And circumstances are about to shift in a way that will not be gentle. There is a transition unfolding in my life that will demand more of my time, more of my visibility, more of my emotional endurance than anything before it. It is not temporary, it is structural. A redefining chapter. If you marry me, you will not be entering a calm season. You will be stepping into acceleration. And here is the tension that keeps tightening in my chest. You have finally reached a stage in your life where peace is not a luxury. It is a priority. You have already lived through chaos, through uncertainty, through phases where love required too much compromise. You have earned your stability. So what right do I have to ask you to attach your life to a man walking into greater pressure? I ask myself that repeatedly. Am I offering you a partnership or a storm? And here is the uncomfortable truth. It will be both. There will be nights when the world feels loud around us, when decisions weigh heavily, when scrutiny feels invasive, when I come home emotionally drained. In those moments, you will not need a speech from me. You will need presence. Can I give that consistently? I believe I can. But belief is not proof. That is why this part of the conversation matters. Because if you say yes, you are not saying yes to romance alone. You are saying yes to standing beside a man whose life is rarely simple. You will be seen, discussed, interpreted. Some will admire you, some will judge you, and I cannot fully shield you from that. Does that intimidate you? Be honest. Because I would rather face your hesitation now than watch you struggle silently later. There was a moment when I almost convinced myself that the noble thing to do was to step back, to let you pursue a quieter love, to let you have mornings that are not interrupted by intensity. But every time I imagined you with someone else for the sake of ease, something inside me refused to accept it, not out of possession, out of truth, because ease without depth would bore you. You need substance. You need a man who challenges you intellectually, emotionally, spiritually. You do not want chaos, but you do not want monotony either. And that realization brought me to a difficult clarity. If I delay choosing you because I fear the weight of my world, I am underestimating your strength. You are not fragile. You are discerning. There is a difference. But here is the layer that unsettles me. What if I become consumed by this next chapter and unintentionally recreate the very distance that almost cost me you? What if ambition slowly erodes intimacy? I have seen that happen before, and I do not want history repeating itself with you. That is why this cannot just be a proposal. It must be a conscious contract between us. If I drift, you must call me back. If you feel unseen, you must tell me before detachment grows. If pressure builds, we face it together, not separately. Marriage to me is not escape from complexity. It is commitment to navigate it as a unit. But here is the question that tightens everything. If you look at your life honestly right now, are you prepared to intertwine it with something that is still expanding? Or are you craving simplicity more than depth? There is no wrong answer, but there is a truthful one. Because if you marry me hoping I will eventually become quieter, smaller, less intensy, you will resent me. And if I marry you expecting you to absorb the pressure without complaint, I will fail you. This is the external test. And it is not small. I need to know something from the deepest part of you. Do you love me enough to stand beside me when things are loud? And do you trust me enough to believe I will still choose you when things are overwhelming? Because the next layer of this story is where external pressure collides with internal vulnerability, and it may feel almost irreversible. Before we go there, tell me in your heart. Are you stepping forward with full awareness, or are you starting to question whether this love asks too much? Then let me speak to you without breaking this into fragments, because what I am about to say does not belong in short breaths. It belongs in one continuous truth. There is a moment approaching in my life that will force me to make a decision publicly, decisively, and without room for retreat. When that moment arrives, everything around me will accelerate. Expectations will rise. Visibility will expand. The margin for emotional error will shrink, and if you are my wife when that happens, you will not stand behind it quietly. You will stand inside it with me. That is the weight of what I am asking from you. Not admiration. Participation. I need you to understand something clearly. The pressure itself does not frighten me. I have lived under pressure. What frightens me is the possibility of failing you while trying to carry it. I have watched ambitious men lose the softness of their homes because they convinced themselves that providing intensity was the same as providing presence. It is not. A woman can admire a man publicly and still feel alone beside him privately. That is the nightmare I refuse to create with you. But here is where it becomes almost irreversible. If I do not choose you now, if I delay and step fully into this next chapter alone, the distance between us will widen naturally. Not out of conflict. Out of trajectory. My life will move faster. Your life will stabilize further. We will tell ourselves we will reconnect later. And later will become polite silence. I can see that path clearly. It is rational. It is responsible. And it ends without us. That is why tonight feels like a line drawn in sand. You deserve to know the deeper layer beneath this urgency. When I sensed your composure growing, when I felt you adjusting emotionally, I realized something painful. You were preparing to love me less intensely, so that you would not be wounded if I stayed undecided. That shift was small, but it was powerful. It told me you were reaching the point where self-protection would override hope. And once hope withdraws, proposals feel late instead of meaningful. If I ask you after you have emotionally stepped back, your yes would not be the same. It would be cautious, measured, protective. I do not want protective love from you. I want engaged love, present love, chosen love. But here is the truth that shakes me. There was a window not long ago when I nearly convinced myself that losing you slowly would hurt less than risking everything quickly. I almost accepted the idea that maybe we were profound but not permanent. That maybe timing would solve what courage avoided. That was cowardice disguised as patience. And if I had stayed in that mindset another month, you would have sensed it fully and stepped away with dignity. You are closer to that edge than you admit. Not because you stopped loving me, but because you are unwilling to beg for clarity. So now I stand here emotionally exposed, aware that this proposal is not just about romance. It is about alignment before divergence becomes permanent. If you say yes tonight, you are choosing to step into intensity with me instead of stepping into calm without me. If you say no, you are choosing stability over risk. Both choices are understandable. Only one keeps us together. Let me ask you something that may unsettle you. If I move forward publicly into this next phase of my life without your hand in mine, will you still feel chosen later? Or will you quietly decide that a man who needed pressure to commit is not the man you deserve? That is the near point of no return we are approaching. I do not want you to say yes because you fear losing me. I want you to say yes because you see that I am choosing you consciously before ambition consumes the available space for intimacy. I am not asking you to surrender your peace. I am asking you to merge it with my intensity so that neither of us lives half a life. But here is what makes this even heavier. Once I step into this next chapter, if you are not beside me, I will adapt. I will focus. I will accelerate. And you will feel that shift from a distance. You will watch me build without you anchored to me. And rebuilding us after that separation would be nearly impossible. That is why this feels urgent in a way I cannot soften. You are not competing with another woman. You are competing with time and trajectory. And trajectory does not wait. So I need to know this without illusion. When you imagine standing beside me during seasons that test patience and endurance, do you feel empowered or exhausted? When you picture your life intertwined with mine at full speed, do you feel expansion or overwhelm? Because if your body whispers hesitation right now, we need to hear it before vows make it silent. And here is my confession in its rawest form. I would rather risk overwhelming you with honesty tonight than risk losing you through delay tomorrow. I would rather ask boldly and face your uncertainty than pretend we have endless time. We do not have endless time. We have this moment where clarity is still possible. If you walk with me into what is coming, we walk as partners. If you step back, we may never realign in the same way again. That is how close we are to irreversible. Before I go further, I need to feel whether your heart is still open or beginning to close. Are you standing here with me fully, or are you starting to calculate the cost? Then let me take you into the place I have been avoiding, because this is where everything stops being controlled and starts being raw. After I realized how close we were to drifting into separate trajectories, something inside me cracked open. Not dramatically. Quietly. I found myself one night sitting alone, no distractions, no noise, and instead of thinking about strategy or expansion, I was thinking about you walking away peacefully. Not angrily. Peacefully. That image undid me. Because peaceful departure means closure. It means you would not fight for me. You would simply decide that love should not feel like waiting. And I would not be able to argue with that. That night I felt something I rarely allow myself to feel fully. Fear. Not fear of failure. Not fear of criticism. Fear of emotional loss. I imagined hearing about your engagement to someone else years from now. I imagined congratulating you with composed maturity. I imagined telling myself it was for the best. And inside, I felt a hollow ache I would never publicly admit. That is when the near breakdown happened. Because I understood something brutally honest. If I lose you because I delayed choosing you, it will not be fate. It will be my decision. And I would have to live knowing I let a rare woman walk away. Because I was still negotiating with my own hesitation. That thought shook me. It forced me to confront the part of me that equates independence with strength. Because independence is safe. It requires no surrender. It requires no daily accountability to another heart. Marriage does. Marriage means I cannot disappear emotionally when things feel heavy. Marriage means if you feel unseen, I must respond. Marriage means if you cry, I do not analyze the reason. I sit beside you. That level of presence has not always been my instinct. And realizing that you might one day need me, in a way that interrupts my rhythm, that frightened me. But losing you frightened me more. That is the emotional collision happening inside me. Ambition versus attachment. Control versus surrender. Speed versus stillness. And here is where it becomes almost unbearable. When I sensed you recalibrating, I almost convinced myself that maybe you deserved someone simpler. Someone whose life would revolve more predictably around you. I almost told myself that stepping back would be noble. But that narrative collapsed when I admitted the real reason behind it. It was not nobility, it was avoidance. Avoidance of the discipline required to love you properly. And I am tired of avoiding, because every time I imagine a life without you, it does not feel lighter, it feels diminished. I need to ask you something vulnerable. Have you ever felt like loving me required more emotional endurance than you expected? Have there been nights where you wondered whether I would ever fully anchor myself to you? If those nights existed, I need you to know I felt their echo. And that echo brought me here. This is not a proposal born from panic. It is a proposal born from recognizing that if I do not step forward now, I will lose the chance to build with the only woman who challenges me to evolve emotionally. But here is the fragility in this moment. If you say yes out of hope that I will transform overnight, you will be disappointed. If you say yes because you see that I am consciously choosing growth with you, then we have something powerful. The near loss is not hypothetical anymore. It was already beginning quietly. I felt it, you felt it. And we are standing at the edge where either we lean fully in, or we let maturity turn into separation. Tell me honestly in your heart, are you still choosing me because you believe I can show up consistently? Or are you choosing me because you are afraid of starting over? Because I would rather face your doubt now than marry you into quiet resentment. Then let me stay here in this fragile space with you, because this is where everything almost slipped beyond recovery. After that night, when fear settled into me, I did not feel heroic. I felt exposed. I realized that I had been standing on the edge of losing you, while pretending I still had control of the timing. And control is an illusion in love. The moment a woman begins protecting her heart, the clock starts ticking in a way a man cannot reset with charm or grand gestures. I saw it clearly. Your composure was not indifference. It was strength preparing for departure if necessary. You were not threatening to leave. You were preparing to survive if I did not choose you. That is what nearly broke me. Because I understood that once survival mode activates, romance fades into practicality. And practicality does not wait for delayed declarations. There was a moment when I almost convinced myself to let you go quietly. I told myself that if you stepped away peacefully, I would respect it. I would frame it as maturity. I would say we both deserved clarity. But underneath that narrative was a painful truth. I would have been surrendering to fear. Fear that I might not be able to sustain the emotional steadiness you require. Fear that I might fail you publicly or privately. Fear that anchoring myself to you would demand more discipline than I have ever applied to my own heart. And then the realization came like a shock. If I lose you because I hesitated, I will not lose you to another man. I will lose you to my own delay. That is a loss I could never rationalize. You deserve to know this fully. When I imagined you eventually choosing someone else who offered certainty without hesitation, I did not feel anger. I felt regret. Deep, irreversible regret. The kind that sits quietly in a man for years, reminding him of the one woman he did not choose fast enough. I am standing here emotionally stripped of strategy. This is not about optics, not about timing, not about external pressure. This is about the simple truth that you are reaching a threshold. If I do not step forward decisively, your love will recalibrate into distance. And once that recalibration completes, even a ring would feel late. So I need to ask you something with complete sincerity. If I anchor myself fully to you now, if I commit not just with words, but with consistent presence, will you meet me there without holding on to the memory of my hesitation? Or has my delay already created a quiet scar inside you? Because this is the edge. The moment where either we bind ourselves to growth together, or we allow dignity to separate us gently. Then let me move into the final stretch before everything becomes clear, because this is where the decision stops hovering and starts demanding shape. I have laid my fear in front of you. I have admitted my hesitation. I have confessed the near loss, the almost drift, the way your quiet strength forced me to confront myself. But there is still something deeper beneath all of it, something that explains why this question, will you marry me, feels heavier than any decision I have made publicly. When I looked at you honestly, I realized you were never asking for perfection. You were asking for certainty. Not the kind that guarantees there will be no storms, but the kind that guarantees I will not walk away when they arrive. And I saw clearly that my delay was not neutral. It was shaping how safe you felt with me. Each pause, each thoughtful postponement, each careful analysis was teaching you not to lean too far into me. And that is the quiet damage I cannot ignore. If you had turned cold, it would have been easier. If you had demanded answers loudly, I could have responded decisively. But you did something far more powerful. You adjusted inwardly. You preserved your dignity. You began preparing for a life that would be steady whether I stepped forward or not. That preparation was not loud, but it was real. And I understood that if I waited until you were fully prepared to live without me, my proposal would feel like an interruption instead of a gift. This is why tonight matters. Not because of romance, but because of timing at the level of the heart. If I anchor myself to you now, I am not chasing you. I am aligning with you before distance becomes your new comfort. And I need to know whether your heart is still open enough to receive that alignment fully. I am not asking you to forget my hesitation. I am asking you to see that I faced it and chose differently. That I stood at the edge of losing you and decided that fear would not dictate my future. That I would rather grow into the man you need than remain comfortable in the man I have been. So I ask you with complete awareness. If I choose you publicly and privately, if I commit to presence and discipline and evolution beside you, Will you release the doubt that formed during my silence? Or will a part of you always wonder whether I would have chosen you without pressure? Because the final clarity depends on that answer. Then let me finish this without hesitation, without strategy, without any shield left between us. I am not asking you to marry a flawless man. I am asking you to marry a conscious one, a man who stood at the edge of losing you and realized that love is not proven by delay, but by decision. I choose you knowing it will demand presence. I choose you knowing it will test my discipline. I choose you knowing you are strong enough to walk away if I fail. And that is exactly why I will not fail you lightly. If you say yes tonight, it will not be because I rushed you. It will be because we both understood the cost of silence and refused to let it separate us. I am not choosing you out of fear. I am choosing you because life without you would be smaller than I am willing to accept. So I stand here fully aware, fully committed, fully exposed. Future wife, will you marry me?